Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the long-awaited bonus episode of Metroid Prime 3. We've got three things on the menu for tonight. We're going to take a little look at the concept art that we got for doing a load of shit in the game. We're going to take a look at some of the differences between the trilogy version of Prime and all the three of the Prime games and the overarching stuff, and how that's kind of changed some of the story and created some controversies as to what's considered the real story or not. And finally, we're going to have a look at the colours. Is this an orange game? Let's find out. But first off, I guess you've not really seen the trilogy menu much before, because I've always launched straight into the thing, but you will see a very satisfying thing that if I point at my file, I can't remember which one of these is mine. I guess it's one of these two. One's my practice and one's my real file. I think it'll be this one. All three completed 100% is real nice. That's Prime 1, Prime 2, and Echoes. Wonderful to see. But we have our option for extras here. Concept gallery, and what do we have in Metroid Prime 3? Oh my god, there's loads. Well, we're going to be busy for a while here. Oh, I have to purchase them, good lord. I suppose this is what these bonus credits we've been getting all through the games have been. I should probably just purchase them all off screen to speed things up. Well, it looks like there's three of them I can't afford because I don't have enough of these green ones. God knows how you get the green ones, but I only had a couple of them. So, we just get Samus, Creature 1, World 1, and Storyboard 1. We don't get any of the other the twos. Oh well. So if we look at the Samus one, we can see Samus, unsurprisingly. That's, I guess, an early design for the PED devices. Morph Ball, which looks cooler than anything that actually made it into the game. Equally there, that one looks a bit kind of more angular and pointy than the actual one does. The one on the left is very Japanese, and the one on the right's kind of in the middle is more like the kind of actual finished one we see in the game. Oh, how the various beams were going to look. It feels like a lot of this didn't make it through into this game. Yeah, maybe this game was a bit rushed or something like that. Most of these designs look kind of cooler than a lot of the stuff we saw in the game. Well, let's not dwell on that too much. Gunship at least looks the same, as one would kind of hope/expect. There we go, pointer. It's been a while since I've done Metroid, and I'm just remembering how much fun motion controls are. So I guess that's early designs of Gore, and it basically looks about right. What's he called? Not Berserker Knight. The Pirate Hussar and the Korak Beast there. That is a Berserker Lord there. Oh, I guess that's a crawl tank, isn't it? Yeah. For the other humans in the game, I guess they had to actually design those from scratch because none of the other Metro games really show any, well, the Prime games really show any like humanoids. These are just Federation people. Reptilicus, I don't think you ever really see them being bipedal. They're quadrupedal for almost all of the game, or hexapedal technically. Rundas looking a little less icy than he does in the actual game. Oh, the various little Elysian drones, they look cool. Steambots, Steam Lord, weird floating G-Fed trooper that I'm sure never made it into the actual game. No idea what that is. I don't remember that at all. Maybe that didn't make it through either. What else we got? We got World... Oh, bugger off. We got World Package 1. Ooh, nice little bit of Alicia. I do like the design on Alicia. Said it before and I'll say it again. That's the gateway in Brio. More of Brio. I don't know where that is, but it's not particularly exciting. Oh, early plans for Alicia. That looks like Alicia had a solid surface at one point with the actual Leviathan impacted in it, rather than taking all place all in Skytown. I always thought it was strange in the game. They refer to, they call it Alicia : Skytown, and it kind of implies, and I guess it was a more explorable planet at some stage, but only the Skytown stuff kind of actually remained. Ship leaving the Olympus. I guess that's also part of Alicia. It looks very Chozo-y. It's the Chozo colours of brassy kind of metal style. Don't know what that is. Brio again, because that's Reptilicus' head. And I guess that's that bit in the Brio when you get the Spider Ball. No, it's not. It's the bit on Alicia when you get the Spider Ball, because also that was on Alicia, and B, that's a damn Chozo. And there's some supports holding some shit in. That was mildly cool. And storyboard package. If I remember, these things are quite... Oh no, this wasn't what I was thinking of. There's these dioramas you can see somewhere, and I don't know where they are. These are just explaining various bits of the game. This is less exciting stuff to me. That's just showing how they picture, like, how storyboards are how artists, like, conceptualize out, like, action sequences, as, like, still frames. Yeah, that is what it is. Guess I can't see anything else. Huh. Well, there we have it. Oh, no, we've got the bonus gallery as well. What do we got in here? Oh, yeah, this is where you got the dioramas. We need these damn green things. Where do you get these green things from? Man. I really should have looked into this before doing this bonus episode, but you know, there we go. Either way. I'm going to talk about briefly now the I'm going to go back to the title screen and just kind of let it do its thing. While I talk about the differences kind of with the versions. So, one of the main differences, all the gameplay ones I kind of talked about while they were there, but the main kind of plot difference is that the trilogy, basically the original versions of Metroid Prime 1 and the American and European versions of Metroid Prime 1 have a very different story. They have a different set of lore and different positions. And Metroid Prime Trilogy it went with the PAL, the kind of European European sequence of events, and therefore that's the one we take as being kind of real. And so in that, to kind of give you a rough overview of it, the Chozo predicts that there's a great evil called the Worm that's going to come to town for, and indeed it does in the form of a Leviathan from Phase, which comes, fucks stuff up, and kills a load of, starts wrecking the ecosystem, and brings killed Chozo back as angry spirits. At some point, it's very unclear when, a Metroid of unknown origin, and that's important too, enters the Leviathan and mutates, becoming Metroid Prime. The Chozo built the kind of temple to contain the Phazon and lock it by the artifact. It's unclear whether that was built to contain the Phazon or to contain the prophecy of the worm that is Metroid Prime as well. The Chozo then kind of fade away, hoping the Entrusted One day kind of comes by and deals with the issues there. Decades later, the pirates come and discover Phazon and detect signs of life in the core. Sometimes it's said that Metroid Prime entered the Artifact Temple during this time or just before that. Sometimes it's like during the Chozo time. No Chozo stuff makes any mention of there being Metroids on Talon 4, but yeah, that's the kind of official version. The alternative version that's given in the North American release of Prime is that before anything happens, the Chozo found enlightenment and kind of left the material plane and become kind of spirits. This is long before the Leviathan or anything like that. The Leviathan hits and they're just like, that's mildly interesting, but they kind of detach from the mortal realm. But then the spread of Phazon on the planet rips many of them kind of like back as ghosts. Sometimes angry ghosts, sometimes passive ghosts. In this version, crucially, it's said that that Metroid Prime was in the Leviathan from the start. It landed there, meaning it came from the planet Phase. Chozo came back into the kind of this world at great effort and built the temple, and somehow, bafflingly, during this time, so while Chozo ghosts are still locking the temple and sealing it up, the pirates arrived and found Metroid Prime, who'd escaped from the Leviathan, I suppose. They captured it, they did tests on it, it escaped, it kind of absorbed a load of Phazon and absorbed a load of weapons systems from the pirates. This is why it has like wave beam and plasma beam technology. And this does explain to a certain extent as well why Dark Samus is able to like steal Samus's suit and take it off her. It's Metroid Prime can assimilate technologies in that canon. And so those kind of two different versions of events exist, and it seems that both... So Metroid Prime 2 doesn't factor into this much, because we don't know a great deal about that. The impact that split Aether into Ether and Dark Ether was presumably a Leviathan, but we never see any sign of it, we never see its guardian or anything like that. The entire body of it is gone by the time we get there, so who knows with that. But it seems that Metroid Prime 3, while that was being written, they hadn't decided which of those versions was necessarily true or not, and kind of you have issues with both of them that then come about when you consider various things that happen in Metroid Prime 3, that they seem to support either or both of those sometimes being true one way or the other. Number one, the big one for me, is how are Metroids on Phase? In Metroid lore, Metroids were created by the Chozo. So how would they be on a planet which even the Chozo weren't aware of because it was so distant? We know the Chozo weren't really aware of it because of the Elysian data in Metroid Prime 3. There's a theory that Dark Samus or the pirates brought them there, but they're there in huge numbers, and you've got like those exoskeletons in the Genesis chamber embedded in the walls. It implies it wasn't a recent thing. We know there's only been like 2 years between Prime 2 and 3. Equally, yes, the exoskeletons in the Genesis chamber, they look like Metroid Prime, which would make sense if Metroids and Metroid Prime originally came from Phase, but that's very much made clear that that's not the case in Metroid Prime 1, that in Metroid Prime 1, in the kind of true canon, Metroid Prime didn't arrive with the Leviathan, it kind of came in afterwards. They then seem to have tried to address that by saying, oh look, Metroids can turn into these exoskeleton-y things when exposed to Phazon, but then still, like, why are they there on Phase? Unless they were brought over as well. And yeah, there's no reason, as I said earlier, why there's no mention of and no reason why Metroid would be present on Talon 4, whether the pirates brought them, how it got inside the impact crater after it was sealed, or before it was sealed. If they did come with the pirates, then by that point the artifact temple was already kind of constructed and sealed. How did it get into the impact core? And then the final weird one is, why is there no Phazon core on Talon 4? In all the kind of Leviathans we see in Prime 3, there's a core being protected by a Guardian. You defeat the Guardian, the core comes out, and then you laser the core and it defeats it. And that's kind of basically the living part of the Leviathan. We never see that in Prime 1. Perhaps it was consumed by Metroid Prime itself. Obviously, the real answer to all of this is people don't think... When you're writing the conclusion of the first part of a trilogy, you don't necessarily know exactly how it's going to be concluded. Sometimes you want to change stuff as it goes along. Most of these are probably quirks of writing rather than like massive plot holes or anything. But it's just, I thought it briefly worth discussing just to show that there is not any one single explanation for where Metroid Prime came from. To say that she is the main antagonist of the entire series, her internal chronology, where she came from and stuff like that, is all relatively unclear within the games itself. And I just kind of thought I'd make that point. Finally, let's switch over to something different. So what you're seeing here is the result of my colour analysis of Metroid Prime. I took from my own footage one image every second. And I took the average colour of that image, the entire image of the thing, so taking into account the whole heads-up display, Samus's arm cannon, and whatever I happen to be looking at. This goes for menus or anything like that. The entire game is up here. I take the average colour of each one, and then that's expressed as a red, green, and blue value. I then kind of put a rolling average over those to smooth them out. And what you see here is the entirety of my Let's Play, where each vertical bar is a second of gameplay. And you can see chunks of the game very clearly demarcated by colour. On the left here is the stuff on Norian and the Olympus at the beginning. It's very silvery blue stuff because it's very kind of ship and installation based. Next it gets a bit more orange as we get into Brio. And especially as we get into Brio Fire. This chunk here of the same continuous colour for a good period of time. Who remembers me sat looking for that fucking gel ray to hop out of the fuel gel for like 10 minutes with almost no change in colour at all? There it is. You start seeing a few blue lines after that as we come across more kind of Phazon-y areas. The orange colour then comes back a bit when we're in Brio Fire fighting Rundas, but then it kind of goes again. As we get into the Thorn Jungle area, there's just a lot more, a bit more of a mix of colours. Then here you see, when we enter the Leviathan core, it's very clear there is this huge shift to blue, and that's the fighting of Moginar. Following on from that, we get to Elysia. Elysia has much more of a blend of colours in it kind of generally, and you see these kind of sharp, bright bits are when we're outside, and these darker, blacker bits are when we're indoors fighting Steam Lords or whatever. You can see as well there's bits of Phazon-y or kind of extended periods in hyper mode, which are marked by these kind of like blue lines here. As we get on, it kind of gets a bit darker, and then this very dark section here is when we're in kind of the Xeno research labs with the Metroids and stuff like that. We then come out, and then you have this section here. It actually ends up looking a bit more purpley than blue. Like this section before it is the battle on the Spire, and then kind of Helios is such a short battle that it doesn't flag much up on here, but it's this bit here that it's coming from. The Pirate Homeworld is incredibly visible because it's these kind of dark reddish bands here. So this whole section here is Pirate Homeworld. Then we briefly return to Elysia and do some more stuff around there to get the Nova Beam and whatnot. We go, not the Nova Beam, well, I can't remember specifically. It's been like 2 months since I have recorded that, but it's like to get. Was it the spider? Yeah, it was a spider ball that let us get the hazard shield that let us get the Nova Beam. So we were back in Elysia for a fair bit. Then, as you can see, we come back to the Pirates' Homeworld. Then this kind of whole section towards the end here. So this is, I've done this from my raw footage, not from the kind of actually edited down footage. So this is the whole exploration bit here. So there's bits of blue when we go back to Norion, bits of darker oranges when we go back to Brio, and bits of lighter yellows when we're on Elysia. Then we can see this final kind of chunk on the Pirate Homeworld here when we're doing everything, when we're kind of fighting our way through to the Seed. The battle with Meta Ridley in the Leviathan Seed, very visible again as blue. Then the brief little bit after that as we take control of the Leviathan battleship. And then Phase and the final stuff is incredibly obvious as this incredibly blue band at the end. Conclusions to take from it. I couldn't statistically in any meaningful way work out if the game was kind of orange or not. If you take the average colours are very dark because they take into account mostly Samus's arm cannon is in almost every shot. There's bits in menus and stuff like that, so dark tends to bring the averages down. So the average colours just are there's too much black in them really to get much of an idea of what their hue would be. You can trim it to bits when they're lighter, but obviously I've taken every frame and averaged over that frame. What I should have done perhaps is cropped those frames in to just like to get rid of like the heads-up display and stuff like that, but then I'd also have to get removed time-wise, bits that have got menus in and stuff like that to actually get an idea of the background of the game. Hard to tell, but that's it. That limited my ability to look at it kind of quantitatively, but to look at it qualitatively, look at this thing. Is it an orange game? Yeah. It's quite a dull game in a lot of ways. It doesn't have a lot of blue, and the blue bits do really stick out. Like the fact that from this you can see where major phase-on areas or boss fights are just by kind of looking at the spectrogram of the game is quite interesting. Certainly Brio's pretty orange. Elysia tends towards yellow, and the Pirate Homeworld tends towards red, but they're all in that part of the spectrum, and you can tell this just when you look at the game as yourself, you can see that you have got a lot of colours that feel like they're in a relatively concentrated part of the spectrum. So I don't know whether I like it or whether it works as an effect, but it does seem to be there. Metroid Prime 3 is a surprisingly orange game. Maybe it makes the blues pop more, who knows. But there we have it. I thought I'd just show that as a entertaining little thing, and it's fun to see a whole Let's Play just shown as a spectrogram like that. Oop. But yes, and on that note, we'll draw the entire Metroid Prime trilogy to a close. So thank you very much for joining me on this long journey of 3 Let's Plays to a full series that we've done. And yes, watch Majora's Mask if you're not already. That's airing at the moment, and that's some of my best work, I would like to say. And I hope you'll enjoy some of the other wares that are available here at The Infamous Gentleman. Thank you very much, and good day.